Social Security may be one of the most misunderstood and misplanned for assets that a retiree has. In part, this is because Social Security can be fairly complex, and because of this complexity, I find there's a lot of misinformation around exactly when you should file. I hope to clear up some of that in today's video and discuss filing early at 62. I'm going to give you 3 reasons it's wise to file early, and then 3 frequent myths that trick people into filing earlier when it's against their best interest. How long you spend in retirement is the single most important variable when it comes to Social Security filing. If you have a short life expectancy, no matter what, you should look at filing earlier. Now, you are able to file any month between age 62 and age 70. Delaying filing will give you a larger benefit, and the difference between filing at 62 and 70 can be as much as a 77% difference in monthly benefits. Now, this is a ton of money for a retiree, but if you don't live long enough to recoup the benefit of delaying, then the higher benefit does you no good. On the screen, I have an example of someone passing away at age 73. It's quite clear that delaying has no chance of catching up with this short time horizon. So when is the typical break even from delaying? If you delay all the way till 70, we typically see the break even anywhere from age 80 to age 85, depending on your portfolio return and inflation. The break even between filing at full retirement age and age 62 is typically late 70s. And so let's say someone with known health issues, maybe they have a pre-existing condition that they know will affect their longevity. Or maybe they have some really rough genetics and there's a string of early deaths in their family. This can make a very compelling case to take Social Security earlier, or in the case of a couple, take one of the Social Security benefits a little bit earlier. But what about a person with normal longevity? This will be the majority of retirees. I find a big misconception can steer these people towards suboptimal decisions. For instance, when is a normal person expected to pass away? Many will answer this question by citing life expectancy from birth, which is 78 or 79. Well, if the break even for delaying is early 80s, then the average person should file much earlier then, right? Well, wrong. For someone who is in their 60s, life expectancy from birth is irrelevant. Life expectancy from birth is called a period life expectancy calculation. Retirees should be using something called a cohort life expectancy calculation. The problem with the life expectancy from birth calculation is that it takes into consideration early death. For instance, babies who die in their first year of life bring down that period life expectancy calculation. But if you're 65 years old, let's say, you've outlived 65 years of potentially dying early. So your life expectancy from here is a function of your probability of dying at age 66, age 67, age 68, and so on. The gap between period life expectancy and cohort life expectancy is quite wide. I have a chart showing that gap if you look at England and Wales. I'm using this chart simply for a visual representation, but Social Security publishes cohort life expectancy tables. For someone turning 65 in 2024, cohort life expectancy is in the mid-80s. This means that the break even for delaying is within reach for most average Americans. So again, longevity is 100% a valid reason to take Social Security early, but if this is a reason, understand that you're in the minority. Next, filing early as part of a split spousal strategy can also make a lot of sense. This is a nice way to diversify your Social Security strategy to ensure you have some protection from early death, but also some protection from a very long retirement. Keep in mind that when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse will get the higher of the 2 benefits. So unless both spouses have really rough longevity, it almost always makes sense for one spouse, typically the higher earner, to delay their benefit, receiving that larger benefit that will last the longer of both your lives. The lower earner would then take that benefit a little bit earlier as kind of that diversification strategy. Here's another quick scenario where a split strategy can make sense, when one spouse is significantly younger than the other. Here's a situation with a 7-year gap. Now, the wife has a benefit, but they're also eligible for a spousal add-on benefit. The thing with a spousal benefit is that you cannot receive that benefit until the other spouse has filed. If they were the same age, this would make a more complex filing situation, because if the husband delayed until age 70 and the spouse took at 62, there'd be an 8-year gap where that spousal add-on would not be added to that wife's benefit. But because of the age gap shown on the screen, the timing works out perfectly. The husband will likely pass away before the wife because of that age difference, thus passing on the bigger age 70 benefit. But this couple also received that second spousal add-on benefit quickly because of the gap in ages. Now, word of caution here, the exact combination of timing to benefits will vary quite widely depending on life expectancy. I have a quick heat map shown on the screen. Each color represents a different optimal filing strategy. And so a split strategy of age 70 and 62 often won't be the best answer. Again, remember that you can file any month between 62 and 70. Now, the goal of this heat map is not that we can perfectly optimize based on nailing down the life expectancy of both people within a couple. Rather, it can be used to help guide decisions and show how small variations in assumptions can have a large impact. Then finally, an obvious reason to file early is if one does not have the retirement assets in order to delay. If you retire at age 62 and want to delay your Social Security benefits, but you don't have any assets to fund the bridge from retiring to receiving those Social Security benefits, then obviously that strategy is off the table. That being said, if you do not have the assets to delay, please proceed with caution in retiring early. If your full retirement age is 67, if you file at 62, you are going to receive a permanent 30% cut in benefits. Living only on a Social Security benefit is quite difficult, let alone if that benefit has been cut 30%. It may make sense to work a little bit longer in order to delay and thus earn a larger Social Security benefit check that you can then live on. Again, assuming the longevity expectations work in your favor. Now let's move on to some of the most common filing early myths that I hear. Some of these myths are taken from comments on some of our other Social Security videos. Others are taken from other financial advisor videos that I've seen. The first, filings for Social Security early allows you to spend more. For someone with reasonable retirement savings, this is a false premise. Now, stepping back a second, I firmly understand those that want to spend heavier in their 60s. This is an opportune time to get the most out of your spending because you're healthier and more able to enjoy that spending. But I have yet to see a data-driven analysis showing how one can spend more by filing earlier with prudent planning. When you are retirement planning, you are looking at the best way to make your portfolio last over some period of time while maintaining a certain spending goal or path. Delaying Social Security doesn't mean that you spend less in your 60s. It's not as if you start spending, let's say, $40,000 from your retirement portfolio, and then Social Security turns on, you have a $40,000 benefit, and all of a sudden now you're spending $80,000. Rather, we would try to smooth out that spending, where you're obviously going to be spending more from your portfolio early on if you're delaying, but then Social Security fits right in and encompasses the majority of spending later on. Let me explain this a slightly different way. What is the most common way to plan for retirement? The 4% rule. 4% is the most that you could have taken from your portfolio starting out in the worst case scenario historically if you were living a 30-year retirement. It is a worst case scenario planning method and is used commonly with DIYers and many financial advisors. The average sustainable withdrawal rate was around 6%. The highest sustainable withdrawal rate from a balanced portfolio was nearly 10%. But with conservative planning, most will set their retirement plan based on a conservative worst case scenario or close to starting point. Well, here's the thing about coordinating Social Security with the rest of your portfolio. In worst case scenarios, delaying Social Security lifts your spending floor. This makes complete sense. Social Security is meant to be guaranteed and unhinged from financial market performance. It's inflation adjusted. So in periods where inflation is high and portfolio returns are low after inflation, a large Social Security benefit ensures higher spending capabilities. Now, in scenarios where portfolio returns are really high, then yes, taking Social Security early can make more sense. You can end up with more money at the end of your life because it keeps more wealth compounding in your portfolio early on in retirement. But keep in mind, if your portfolio returns are fantastic, you're already winning big time. Your portfolio is going to grow and you're likely to have quite a bit of wealth left at the end of your life. Great. But no one plans, at least prudently, based on the best case scenarios. And so it's a false premise that filing early allows you to spend more earlier in retirement. The second big myth is believing your portfolio can easily outperform the benefits of delaying Social Security. This is a myth I've seen a lot of financial advisors or people on financial YouTube talk about. They generally use graphs like the one I have on the screen. So in general, in running Social Security break-even calculations, many will want to use what's called a discount rate. Think of a discount rate as a return your money can earn if invested. Take a discount rate of 5%. If you take Social Security early, and let's say your benefit is $20,000, that $20,000 is money you don't need to take from your portfolio, That $20,000 in your portfolio can grow and keep compounding at, let's say, that 5% discount rate. The problem with a discount rate is it's calculated as a straight line method, as if your portfolio is invested in a 5% or 10% CD. And so I see graphs like this where a 5% discount rate pushes back the break even of Delane, and a 10% discount rate means that that break even might never happen. Retirees with a more stock-heavy allocation will believe their investments will grow by 8 or 10% per year. And so filing earlier makes total sense based on the 10% discount rate, right? This is not how the real world works. Yes, stocks can earn upwards of 10% for the length of your retirement, but it's not about the growth, it's about volatility and inflation. Here's a graph of 30 years of stock market performance from the early 70s. Stock market grew over 10% per year. Incredible growth, but we see at times it was a bumpy ride. Twice your portfolio would have lost over 40%, but nonetheless maintain that 10% top end growth. But in retirement, volatility is what matters, because during those downturns, you will be pulling from your investments and thus furthering that drawdown. Here's an example of following the 4% rule. One would think that if I earn 10% on my money, have it all invested in the stock market during this 30-year phase, then we can take 4% quite easily and still have money left over to grow. This is not the case, however. Due to high inflation and an early market crash, your portfolio would have declined more than 60% by the end of this 30-year period. In nominal terms, it would have grown slightly. The point being, because of volatility, the straight line method is basically useless. Downturns and volatility are more frequent with a portfolio that's earning a higher rate of return. This means your actual return after withdrawals will be quite a bit less because of this volatility drag. And so what you would actually want to do in this situation is simulate portfolio returns with variation in those returns, and then overlay Social Security filing strategies and compare filing earlier with Delane. What you will find is the return you need to earn in your portfolio is much higher than you previously thought because of that idea of volatility drag. This doesn't mean it's not achievable to have your portfolio outperform the benefits of Delane, just that you have to be quite optimistic and quite confident in those higher returns. For someone that digs into the data, this is a harder case to make. Then finally, let's touch on the fear-mongering myth. Social Security is going broke, get what you can while you can. Every year, the Social Security Administration publishes their outlook for the Social Security system. If nothing changes sometime in early to mid-2030s, the current tax revenue will only be able to cover about 80% of scheduled Social Security benefits. This means we have a shortfall and potentially a cut if nothing changes from now until then. This shortfall is driven by demographics. The retirement crowd is much larger as a share of the population than it's previously been. What can be done to fix this? Well, actually there are quite a few simple fixes. Right now, you only pay Social Security tax on the first $160,000 you make and nothing over that. So someone making $1 million a year is only taxed on the first $160,000 when it comes to Social Security. Now, this might seem unfair, but keep in mind that people only receive a benefit based on what they paid into the Social Security system. So they have a capped taxable wage base, but they also have a capped Social Security benefit. Eliminating this base, which has been discussed as there has been talk of levying more taxes on the rich, would push the solvency out about 20 years. Let's say they didn't make this change. Other small changes like pushing back full retirement age, investing the current trust fund in higher earning investments, or changing the benefit formula slightly can push the insolvency date back almost to 2060. The point being, this isn't some black box that's impossible to fix. There are a lot of options that Congress has to actually quickly fix this system. So then one would ask, why hasn't it been fixed yet? I'm not one for conspiracies, but in my opinion, this isn't a conspiracy, it's incentives. Congress is far from proactive. Every year we do the same song and dance around the government passing a spending bill and then almost shutting down or shutting down temporarily, and then magically everything works itself out. We pass a spending bill and everything goes back to normal. If you're a congressperson today, what incentive do you have today to fix Social Security? Right now, it's a powerful topic that you can use in your campaigning and messaging. Right now, it can be dangled in front of voters as either a carrot or as a stick. Why would you want to take that away for future campaigns? You can wield it as a tool and say the other side wants to cut your benefits and allow the system to go bankrupt and whatever rhetoric that they often pass around. Then if you were to install a fix, costs are going to be incurred somewhere. Raise the taxable base ceiling and you piss off the higher earners. Push back full retirement age and you piss off younger generations. A fix means you are likely pissing someone off. The average age of someone in Congress right now is around the early 60s, meaning that many will not even be around long enough to have to be forced to fix Social Security's system. That's a problem for the next generation. And so it's possible that there are cuts to Social Security in the future. At the end of the day, anything is possible. Is it likely, however? I don't see that one can argue it is. That all being said, I think it's important to stress test your retirement if you're worried about a cut to Social Security. If you're wondering what would happen to your Social Security filing strategy if there was a 20% cut in benefits in the early to mid 30s, click on this video right here. Always remember, you don't need more money, you need a better plan. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next video.